Well, good day, my friends. Your old pal Jordan the Lion. How are you all doing today? I hope you said great. I couldn't come to North Carolina and go to the Richard Childress Museum and then not go to the Richard Petty Museum. Yep, today we're going to explore the racing history of the King. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins now. I'm really excited to check this out today because I know that they have a lot of his cars in here. This is a family business, as we know. Generations of Pettys have been championship race car drivers, but also Richard apparently lives in the area and pops in here from time to time. So who knows, we might see the King. Before I go in, I noticed back here what looked like the shells of the cars. These are the Petty Ghost cars. These cars hung in Daytona, USA. They represent past winners of the Daytona 500. They were given to the Petty Museum when Daytona, USA closed. Number 42, Lee Petty. Looks like they had another car that was here at one point. It was a number 40 car, but it's gone, for Pete Hamilton. And then Richard Petty's 1973. This is so cool. Here's the museum. You can see over there, there's the office, and there's a Richard Petty's face on the emblem. Wow. As soon as we walk in, we have one of the cars. Said right at the very end, it's a 4-building tour. We'll get to see Lee Petty's original building here on the site. This was the Grand National 1984 stock car. Look at the back of the car, you can see his face on there. This is what he drove for his 200th win. It says, "Look but don't touch." And this museum has actually been here since 1988. Look at this. You wouldn't have totally expected this, but you've got his weapon collection over here. Various guns and knives and things that he collects. Seeing a lot of Civil War stuff. Here's some of his rifles. And his challenge coins. Which, if you saw my video with the guy who was the flight attendant on Air Force One, he explains the challenge coins. There's more, a lot more of his weapons collection over here. Those are all different handguns, Civil War handguns, and then in this case, and in that case down there, those are his pocket watch collection. Lots of them. All those championship trophies, Winston Cup wins. Richard Petty jukebox. And there he is with it, 1975. And then this is funny. He retook the photo in 2020 wearing the same clothes, in the same, in front of this. Isn't that funny? Man, he looks exactly the same. Now this is a doll collection belonging to Linda Petty. She collected them while traveling around with Richard during his racing years. She had a love for dolls, and ever since she was a small girl, these are some of her favorites. Of course, you notice there's one of Richard back there. Elvis. Oh, even the Three Stooges. Here we have a painting of Richard and some of his favorite watches. Watches that are owned by him, and also most of them have his image on them. So you can see his face on a lot of those. But they say they were owned by Richard. Look at this. Glass cowboy hat. Richard Petty gold wrenches. That's a Richard Petty 80th birthday gas pump. Oh, this is cool. Some of his boots and hat. That's his father, Lee Petty's helmet and boots, stopwatches, golf ball. Now I assume this birdhouse is probably the family home. Yep. It says Petty Tombs Home for Richard Petty. And then right here they have Lee Petty's race car. He won the inaugural Daytona 500 in 1959, and the trophy that he won is at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. But there's a photo of him right there in front of the car. So we'll go show that in front of the car. 1959 Oldsmobile 88 hardtop. It was a dead heat finish with 3 cars. Pretty cool, huh? Now this is cool. It says this is Richard's most winningest car. He won 27 races and 19 poles. He was the 1967 Grand National Champion in this car, and it was a 1967 Plymouth that we can see right into. Literally getting a view from the driver's seat. And then here is Richard posing for a photo with the car. So he'd be on the opposite side. We'll go look at that. Wow. His most winningest race car. So he would have taken that photo over here. Fire extinguisher in there. Still smells like a race car. The inside does. Right there is Richard's suit worn at the Goodwood Festival of Speed in England, June of 2014. And then some of his winning cups. That was from 1967. This also from 1967. Looks like this whole case is all his winners from that year in that car. And this is a bench that you can sit on, and they actually have a copy of his check in there. Take a look at this. Linda Petty, wife of NASCAR Hall of Famer Richard Petty, mother of Kyle, Sharon, Lisa, and Rebecca, helped start the Winston Cup Wives Racing Auxiliary. This 1969 Ford station wagon was bought new for Linda. She drove it around town and to all the races. She served lunch to many of the crew members out of the back of this. It was later sold to a family in Randleman. Years later, Richard bought the car back and restored it. When Pixar was making the movie Cars, they wanted Linda to have a part in it. They asked her what car she would like to be in the movie, and she told them her 1969 wagon. Piston cup jacket. And this was the car that they based his character in Cars off of. So they have a little photo in the center of the two cars here, like snuggled up together. But that was Richard's car. How cool is that? With a picture of him posing on the side of it. There you can see the other side of it along with this seat. Sometime in the early 70s, the king dislocated his shoulder in an accident and needed a way to exercise while at home to get back into racing shape. An employee of Petty Enterprises made this rig, and the king set it up in front of his TV at home. Every night he would work out his shoulder while watching TV. This home therapy worked, and he was back in the race car soon. Then here is Wendell Scott's car. Stock car race car driver, the first African American team owner in NASCAR, and the first African American to win a race in the Grand National Series, NASCAR's highest level. And here's a picture of Richard throwing out the first pitch at a Reds game, Cincinnati Reds. Over here is a little playland for the kids where the seat is the back of one of his cars and all the images from cars. A couple of cardboard cutouts and a thank you. Here's some signed 8x10 photos and photos Richard's taken with famous people like Mickey Mouse and Duke Snyder, Roy Clark. Here's Richard's Presidential Medal of Freedom. That is really cool. Beloved by presidents. Photos of him with the Reagans. Looks like the both Bush families, the Carters, Obamas. Now we're heading over to the next building. So the building was added to Petty Enterprises in 1969 to make room for the Fords. Later became the car maintenance building for Richard and Kyle. Oh boy, we have a lot to look at in here. Starting with Kyle Petty's car that he drove the last 2 years he raced, his Dodge Charger from 2007-2008. The car that Kyle Petty won the World 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway in 1987, along with his suit. Look at this. Over here we have a car built for Kyle, 2004. This one's for Richard. Got his name on there. This was the car of tomorrow, built here at Petty Enterprises, driven by Bobby Labonte. This was also built by Petty Enterprises. That was a Winston Cup car celebration car. But over here we have Richard's 1978 Monte Carlo. At the beginning of the 78 season, he was driving a Dodge. On July 17th, he switched to the Chevy. He finished 6th in points. And this was one of Richard's 1990s test cars. Used to test suspension. Then over here, 1992 Fan Appreciation Tour with the racing suit right there. This was driven the last year that he raced, 1992. And back here were the administration offices and everything. But then they have one of the clay models for his 1970 car. He used to make the 71 Roadrunner. Tons of toys that his face and car were merchandised on. And then this was Lee Petty's car, 1926 Model T. He bought it because it reminded him of the car he first dated his wife Elizabeth in. He said it was like the first car he ever bought that he traded in the car, or traded in the horse for a car for. And then this was also Lee's. No, actually, this was Richard's car, 1933 Dodge. He bought it from a man in Martinsville. He bought it when he was driving a Dodge in the 70s. It's one of his private collection. This is a 1964 Barracuda. When Chrysler boycotted the first half of the season, Richard started drag racing. He completed the second half of the season with NASCAR, 14 races, and won 4. He finished 38th in points. And this is a tire from his drag racing career. Interesting. Can't keep a good man down. He was going to race either way. Now, this was actually Richard's first race car. How cool is that? 1957 Oldsmobile. He raced it as a convertible in 1958, and his father Lee raced it as a hardtop in 1957. He had 9 starts that year, and he had 1 top 10. That's awesome. There he is with it. The first of its kind, a cooling suit, tested and worn by Richard Petty. All those jackets were his jackets back there. All this experimental engine. Awards. They've got his shoes. They've got champagne bottles and cups and driving suits. An engine outlawed by NASCAR here. Maurice Petty put it in his 1936 Chevrolet Street Rod that was once driven on the beach in Daytona. Wow. Now here is the Atlanta 1992 Richard Petty's last ride. November 15th, 1992. Took his final lap before retiring in this car at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Was not a smooth ride apparently. And they also have his helmet from that last ride. That is really cool though that they have it. And there is the suit that he wore. And the helmet. Now this suit over here says that Richard wore it at Daytona in 1992 for the Fan Appreciation Tour. This is a 1987 Pontiac. 0 wins with this one. And then here's his motorcycle, his Harley. Bike has a special paint job and has his name actually on it. And this was Kyle Petty's 1965 Harley. The last year that Harley made the panhead engine, and the first year they put electric starts on their motorcycles. And this was one of the first heated suits that Kyle wore when he drove his motorcycle. And then we go back here and it's just award after award going all the way down the hallway. Richard's helmet from the 1980s. Stock cars of all the cars that he raced. Well, not just him, but Lee also. Some signed Richard Petty glasses in that case. And this was a suit that Richard wore to celebrate 50 years of Richard Petty racing. And he wore that in 2008, so he'd been retired for quite a while. That is Adam Petty's Victory motorcycle. And then this is the Adam Petty garage. As you can see, this section of the museum is dedicated to him. His sprint car from 2000. And his ARCA car. He won Charlotte in this car, it says. And then now we head into here. Family legacy. Here they're working on vehicles. What a cool museum. And yes, you can have work done on your car here. What a cool place this is. I'm impressed. Good job, King. Now we head over here, and this is the original building. Building from the 40s. Lee Petty's 1949. They have a historical landmark sign. Lee Petty built his first race car, the Reaper Shed, in 1949. Most of what you see in this exhibit are original Petty items. Wow. This is pretty cool. Literally his shop with his RC Cola drink machine back there. This is so freaking neat. Well, I was thoroughly impressed with this museum. It was only $11 to check out this whole place. Did not see Richard here today, but wow, what a history they have on display. I noticed this out here on display. First professional win, 1959, the plaque says. This was the flag stand from Richard's first professional win. Oh, that's cool. This has been a great experience. I am a casual NASCAR fan, and I loved it. I assume that's Adam Petty. Looks to me like all of these hats have been signed by Richard, because they're all signed in a different color. That's pretty cool. And you can buy the signed picture of his car, and it looks like the homestead is next door, so we'll check that out. Here, this is actually signed by Richard and the artist. It's only $15. We're gonna have to get one. Signed 8x10s, $35. Look at that. You can buy a signed Pepsi bottle signed by Richard Petty for only $5. We'll have to get one because he's on the bottom. There you can see his signature on the side of it. Alright, I'm going to show you all the stuff I'm buying here. This was $15 and it's signed right down here by Richard and the artist. I'm buying this. This one's only $5. This is also big. It's like an 11 by 17. Richard signed it right there. It's a great poem. I'm getting this signed baseball card for $1. And then I'm gonna buy all of these also because that signed one is only $5. This signed one is $8 for his 20 years with STP. This one's only $5. That one is $10, but I just thought that was so cool, the Champion's Champion. And since they're all signed, this one's signed down here in silver. That one's also $10. This one is $10. And then this one is supposed to be $35, but she only charged me $10 since I was buying so much other stuff. It's a signed picture from Richard's museum of his car from Cars. So I went back in the gift shop to see if there's anything else I wanted to buy, and I noticed they actually had signed baseball cards of Richard Petty for only $1. And I said, wow, that was so nice that he signed so many things and makes them so cheap in here, from like $1 to $5 and stuff. And she said, oh yeah, he loves to sign everything he can put his name on. So pretty cool. So that's the home. I noticed they had home place of Elizabeth and Lee Petty, birthplace of Richard and Maurice Petty. I was noticing in there they had, this is so cool. I want to give them a massive shout out for this. Richard Petty has an entire box in there of signed photos that are only $5 that he hand signed. So the King of Racing is only charging $5 for his autograph at his museum if you can get here. This is the home place. And they had a photo in there for sale of him with his race car right out front. So I just thought that was cool. So I bought a bunch. I bought a bunch for friends and just, they were so cool. Pretty cool to think of all of them sitting out here on the porch talking about an upcoming race. 4 seats. Mom, Dad, Richard, Maurice. Pretty cool.